A good evening to all of you. We are about to begin our next session, which is on the role of mentors in startup ecosystem. We are having Entrepreneurship Congress. It is on Women Entrepreneurship Congress during the celebration of Global Entrepreneurship Week around the world. And to do this, to discuss about this role of mentorship, we have a good number of experts in their field, and they have worked with mentorship. So I would like to invite all of you to our session. And I would like to invite all the panelists to our session. At first, let me introduce themselves in front of you. We have with us Dr. Susan Amat, Vice President of Education for Global Entrepreneurship Network. We have with us Julie Murad, Chief Operating Officer, Biz for Billions. We have with us Mariam Nazafi, Business Development Advisor, FinTech Center. And we have with us Adina Tari, Senior Advisor, Business Mentor, Leadership Coach at Adina Tari Consultant. Welcome to our session. So at the beginning, I would like to invite our speakers to introduce themselves to our audience so that they get to know about the activities and the influence you have in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Start with Dr. Susan Amat.
Well, happy Global Entrepreneurship Week to everyone, and my heart goes out to all of my dear friends in Bangladesh. I miss you. Give everyone a daffodil, my love. So I think one of the most important things of the story of mentorship is understanding what the true relationship is supposed to be. I was very lucky to have my own business as a 15-year-old, and for 10 years traveled all over the world as growing my business looking for mentors. And it wasn't until I was doing my PhD dissertation on the role of mentoring to really understand how the concept has kind of been bastardized in the startup world. A mentor is someone who helps develop the person and has a long-term relationship with that person to be someone who can execute and become the best they can be. And as part of my role in Global Entrepreneurship Network, we spend a lot of time finding mentors all over the world and certify them to make sure that they listen, communicate, and most importantly, through all this process, document the relationship that they have, understanding those levers of building a person while sometimes giving advice, but usually it's helping to develop that founding team or that founder to be the strong leader that he or she needs to be, asking tough questions, helping them think through things, but not always saying, do this, and usually completely avoiding that. The goal is to not have a dependency on a mentor. And also understanding the concept of multiple mentors as an entrepreneur goes through their journey as they need different things during different times. And I'm really excited about the panel today. I think the biggest challenge that we're going to find as we discuss this really challenging topic in itself is so many mentors are just not always as clear about their own skill sets and what they should or shouldn't comment on to entrepreneurs, because they may not know themselves. They may know more than the mentor, but not as much as the mentor, as the entrepreneur needs at that time. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to hear from my esteemed colleagues on the subject. Thank you, Beauty.
Thank you so much, Dr. Susan. Now I'd like to know from Julie Murad.
Yes, hi, good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where in the world you're connecting. Very happy to be here. I share a lot of the things that Dr. Amat was sharing. I think a mentor is kind of a Swiss Army knife, and it's kind of a misunderstood concept. Depending on who you're talking with, they will give you many different definitions. They can tell you that it's kind of a teacher or professor, a coach, a guide, a sounding board, an expert, an advisor, sometimes even a psychologist. So I think that this is really interesting to see a bit how this role has so many facets to it. And at Bridge for Billions, we consider our mentors to be guides in the journey that is entrepreneurship. So you can think of it like the entrepreneur has a vision. They have their why, which is that peak of the mountain. Then they have their mission, the path that they take to really reach that peak. And then they have their activities, their day-to-day, which is maybe their hiking gear or what they carry in their backpack, what they do really. So in my opinion, the mentor is kind of like a Sherpa, you know, like they guide them to the peak of that mountain, and they might know shortcuts in the path, or they might take into consideration some rocky spots that are maybe a bit dangerous. But at the end of the day, they are the ones that are just here to guide, to listen, to empower the hiker to find their own path and reach that peak on their own. So at Bridge, all our mentors are volunteer professionals. They come from a variety of nationalities, sectors, backgrounds. And we realized one thing, which is that, because part of the question was, what does it look like concretely in the day-to-day mentoring? And what we realized is that a lot of support programs out there, what they do is they have the application from the entrepreneur, their current stage of maturity, their needs, and then they have kind of the LinkedIn profile of the mentor or a more expanded profile logged in some Excel spreadsheet. And then they try to match, you know, like what are the skills that person have and what are the skills that the entrepreneur is looking for. But in a way, it kind of overlooks the whole human aspect. Will I get along with this person? Will I trust this person? Will I relate to this person? So what we do is that we have a matching process that is kind of like a dating app, you know. So upon starting any program, there is this 2 weeks period where, as the entrepreneur, I'm meeting different people, no commitment, just 30 minutes. And then vice versa, mentors are meeting different entrepreneurs and they can submit a ranking and choose each other really at the end of the day. So we do that to create a more open connection and make it less awkward, right? Like I didn't know that person and now they need to know all the ins and outs of my business and give me their advice. So yeah, this process makes it a bit more natural. And also we give them some ice-breaking activities. There is one very beautiful one that I love that we always suggest called the life map, where they need to just, you know, draw a line in a sheet of paper of a lifeline and just tell some important life events, ups and downs that have happened that has brought them to this moment. And it helps really connect on a human level. So,
Thank you so much, Julie. I will come to you again. Before that, I would like to know from Mariam Nazafi.
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. And as the head of the mentorship department of WBAF Business School, I would like to thank you because this mentorship issue is something really important, and I personally believe that mentors are really a valuable source that unfortunately so many entrepreneurs out there don't have access to them. And also, even if we are experienced people, if we are offering and delivering mentorship sessions personally, we as mentors also need to be mentored. So I want to emphasize that it's, you know, a lifelong process, and it's something that it's just a journey. It's a beautiful journey that never will end, and all of us need to update ourselves day by day. Actually, mentorship, it is a process. It's a thought-provoking process, and the role of the mentor is to help mentee to think about and consider the most important problems that they are facing. And maybe even sometimes by asking very deep questions is to help them that if they are focusing on the real correct problem of their businesses or not. So the role of mentor is actually, I would like to say it is in 3 dimensions at least, because when we are talking about a startup, we are talking about the startup founder or startup co-founders, which when it comes to their personal skills and their personal life, they need to be developed. Also, when it comes to teamwork and when it comes to communicating with their team members, they need to be mentored. And also when it comes to the topics related to their business, whatever it is, marketing, sales, product development, whatever it is, also they need to be mentored. So actually, in your startup venture, based on your need, you can have different group of mentors. But the most important thing that is common in all of the mentors that you have and you choose is that there should be some elements. One of them is that in the first step, the mentee, the startup founder, needs to feel it himself or herself. I mean, it is a commitment from the mentee in the very first step. And then it's all about trust, that you feel comfortable, you feel that you can trust your mentor, you should believe in what they say, and you should be passionate about getting these advices from them. So it's all about commitment from both sides, and you need to go very, scheduled to have very fruitful sessions. For this first round, I think it's enough, and I would prefer to talk more about it in the next talk.
Thank you so much, Mariam. Now I'd like to know from Ms. Adina.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation. It's very exciting to be amongst people who are so enthusiastic. And I join the ranks by saying that for me, mentoring is something that I have experienced in my business life prior to becoming an independent consultant. And without knowing at the time, because I was young and I was learning, I realized what a huge difference the people around me have made in organizations, and who exactly has impacted how my own development, both technical and as a human being. And in fact, looking back at a number of decades of experience in the books that I have published, there is a dedication, and I nominate specifically all these individuals going back 30 years who are still alive and with whom I'm still in touch, saying how exceptional they have been in my own development. And one interesting thing is that none of them realizes what a difference they have made, because they have just done it normally. This was part of who they were and their own belief system. And I think that is the most extraordinary, for people to make an impact without even, positioning it in theory. So I would take my view on mentoring on a slightly different level, which is maybe philosophical and societal. And I'm really, because I'm a psychologist as well, I'm really exceptionally moved by the fact that as human beings, we are the only species who is capable of social cultural accumulation, which means that we never ever start from ground zero. And as young people, we always have around us knowledge. So mentoring is in fact a practice that has existed, or at least documented, for about 5,000 years. And it is part of our nature to be able to benefit from exchange with other human beings. Now, mentoring has been practiced in various environments, philosophical as well as in business, for example. And for me, mentoring means this exchange which is intergenerational, which is collaborative, which is developmental, and which really works to foster innovation and to foster achievement and to create a beneficial progress for society at large, not only for the individuals who receive or who exchange this. And typically, for me, it's also an interesting intergenerational exchange, because we may be thinking about mentoring in terms of an older, more experienced person imparting that knowledge to a younger generation, but we know about the younger generation becoming reverse mentors who teach the older generations things that they know and can do better. So this brings me to that, again, very important, I think, aspect of social cohesion, and of the fact that tradition and imparting of knowledge is actually made contemporary by the generation who at this moment in time has got the enthusiasm, the tools, and the appetite to solve problems and push our civilization forwards collectively. And this is what, again, is very important, is that in the end, this is an exchange where everyone wins. And it wins with a transfer that happens from someone who has a set of competencies and knowledge and experience which helps someone else to do better, faster in what they are trying to achieve. So it also bridges the gap between generations, but also between diverse pools of skills, expertise, and knowledge. And it has a mutual developmental feedback loop that benefits everyone in the society at large, the entire ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adina. Now, I'd like to know from Dr. Susan Ahmad, you have a good number of experience that you have with the education system and mentoring system. What is actually really going on in these mentoring programs? Actually, does it help, or how the entrepreneurs can be trained so that they can benefit from these mentorship programs? So we'd like to know this from you.
So as far as entrepreneurs being trained, this is a really big part of making these programs work well. It's helping the entrepreneur, number one, to set clear expectations about what they may want to achieve during a program. Also, it's really thinking through what the overall program goals are. And I loved what Julie was saying about it's humans, and we need to be matched in that way. And depending on the program we're designing, we actually set up several different ways of having that matching occur. A really good example, we just ran Entrepreneurship World Cup. We had 175,000 applicants. We did a few different pieces of mentoring for companies at different levels that opted in, but then we ran a 300 company virtual accelerator over the summer. And it was really fascinating because a lot of the matching pieces of making sure that there would be the relationship building as well as the learning contextualized of that mentor's expertise to the individual, you can automate so much of that now. And it was fascinating to see how with every new wave of entrepreneurs, the algorithm could be tweaked slightly for cultural situations as well as stage of company. But it came back to making sure the entrepreneurs were very clear about their needs. And we often talk about the mentor of a company. In reality, as I said, the mentor is mentoring an individual. And so many of the comments that my colleagues just shared, yes, they talk about the company, but it always comes back to if that leader, if that entrepreneur can execute. And that means all of the pieces of them as an individual needing to find the strength and fortitude and deal with spouses and challenges of their past and societal things that may be holding them back from taking the next leap. All of those things play into it. It's not business advice. And them setting the agenda, that entrepreneur making sure that it's really clear to the mentor exactly what the requirements are, what's in their brain today that's an emergency, and also that thing that's going to be a 5-year out decision before they know if they made the right one. And when you really think back to your first question, what actually happens in mentoring sessions, it's a combination of therapist and business coach. And I think one of the places where we're starting to see, and specifically in our programs that we spend a lot of time on, is making sure in all of our mentor trainings, we have mentors now from over 120 countries. There are always cultural places where people don't feel comfortable saying, I don't know. There are things where it's sometimes more comfortable for them to share one isolated experience instead of going through the process of how a decision is made in a specific use case, but helping the mentee, the entrepreneur, understand the process behind it. So in good mentoring programs, the goal is really around making sure that each mentor is documenting so that there's actual ROI tied to that mentor around whatever that subject area that he or she has claimed expertise in, and we test it and validate it. And we test it across several different types of entrepreneurs. But the matching component sometimes is the make or break. So I love Julie's example of the speed dating. It comes back to if the entrepreneur is looking for who's going to help them get funding, or if they have in their head there's some very specific company they need to meet, sometimes that blinds them to the real value of the long-term mentor. Somebody who's going to be very tough, give them structure, help them understand accountability, help them with all the details and crossing the T's and dotting the I's and all the stuff that isn't as fun. And mentors who come off as ultimate connectors and have had an exit themselves or are angel investors, sometimes that blinds the entrepreneur from really understanding what they need, especially in early stage, which is just kind of being that person who's doing every little step one by one and making sure it all happens instead of just waving a wand. We also work with companies that are in the $5 to $10 million range we're helping to go into international expansion and globalization of their product lines or their company. And there, if there's so many entrepreneurs don't realize it's their executive functioning that needs the work. It's not necessarily strategic decisions because they have a team in place. They have investors, a board. They have so many people who can help them think through strategy. And that mentor may be asking the questions, but especially at that phase, it's really about building the founder to be the executive who can ask the right questions, get what they need, and lead to it. So depending on the program design, the entrepreneur being served, and the types of mentors you have involved, and I guess ultimately the systems you have in place for proper documentation and understanding how 3, 4, 5 mentors and a program manager may all be involved with that same company, that's really where the rubber meets the road as far as totally developing the entrepreneur and that team gestalt focused on the longer term versus having a great relationship one-on-one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Susan. You have said an amazing things. Yes, matchmaking is important between the mentor and mentees because actually that was the main challenges that I have also found during consulting with some of the projects. So I would like to know from Julie Murad in this regard.
Yes, thank you, Beauty. And I love this. We're just building on top of one another. One thing that I wanted to say to react to what Adina Tari shared, I loved what you said, is I read something recently about this win-win. I read something about the economy of knowledge that explained, if I sell you an apple, I don't have it anymore. I might have money in exchange, but I don't have the apple anymore. But if I share my knowledge, we both still have it. So I think this is beautiful, and starting with that is already a very good way to engage both parties because you start with that win-win mindset. And then other tips that I wanted to share on training mentorship, both on the mentor and mentee side. One thing that has been mentioned by my colleagues that is extremely important is commitment. Few things are worse than nothing is more disengaging, in my opinion, than an unresponsive mentor or, someone who loses interest in supporting you. And I think that can have deep consequences on the self-confidence of the founder. It can also happen the other way around, right? Like the founder is not reacting anymore. So, and that can have consequences on the need or the want for the mentor to repeat this mentorship experience with other people. So for me, this is kind of one of the basics of really making it a productive relationship. Another one is this need to connect on the vision and the values. So there will be conflicts, there will be different opinions, there will be misunderstanding if it's really a good and rich mentorship experience. But as long as it doesn't hurt the founder's initial visions and everyone's values, it's productive and it's healthy. Then there were a few things said about trust and vulnerability, which also are key. And it's funny because as I go about explaining what are the most important part, they're always so-called soft skills. So we can see really this is the era of emotional intelligence. But so this trust and vulnerability and the fact that you will have a safe space, that you know that failure is part of the process, that nobody has all the answers, is super important to make the session the most effective it can be. And also, it's also okay to just say 1 week, okay, let's forget completely about the business plan and have a conversation about the issues you're having right now with your team, with your co-founder, how you're feeling, and well-being also is extremely important for founders. Like burnout is on the rise. There's no secret about that. The World Health Organization has recognized this condition. So this is also the role of, you know, having this person that can check in on you and know how you're doing as a person, despite all the work you're putting on ourselves. And then the last part that has been mentioned a lot by Susan right before is working in a disciplined way. So it's extremely important to know exactly week after week what you're going to work on, because you can have so many inspiring, going in every direction conversations and feel inspired. But if you don't have actionable tools to really apply them to your business, what you just did is you watched a TED Talk. You didn't really get a mentorship session, you know? So it's really important that you use frameworks. We work a lot with frameworks like, we inspired our work a lot on MIT's discipline entrepreneurship. There are so many others, Lean Startup, of course, etc. But you need to have clear outcomes for every meeting. And I'll just close by saying the dream for any mentor would be to download the entrepreneur's brain, you know, because before being able to give relevant feedback, you need to know what's the status quo. You need to know what they think about their business. So it's also important that you put systems in place. And that's why we've built all our online program and platform, so that you will be able to download the entrepreneur's brain, so to say, and know exactly what they're thinking about for their business, and therefore give constructive feedback on that.
Thank you, Julie Murad. Yes, there should have a vision and goal, and it should be matched. So I would like to know from Mariam Nazafi in this regard.
Sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed the points that my friends mentioned in the panel. If I want to continue the conversation, I just want to say that it's really, when you are starting this mentoring process, it's all about setting up the outcomes that both sides want to see at the end of the project, because you can, you know, just perceive this mentoring as something like a project with, you know, a duration of time. For example, you can say that it's going to be a 1 year process that we are going to have with each other. And at the end, we are expecting to see these outcomes. Otherwise, you cannot understand that how efficient and effective the sessions were. And, you know, you will lose the discipline, and you need to have a structure. So as my friends mentioned, it really starts from setting up the vision and the goals that you are searching in this relation. And also, you need to be more disciplined. For example, you need to have a time frame, for example, record the sessions, even take something like an official meeting, and just, for example, use WhatsApp for, you know, very informal, getting in, just confident that, okay, the meeting is done. But always use, for example, emails, because you can just make the history of what you have done, you know, just in this 1 year of communicating with your mentor. So this is something very important when you are starting this process. And the other thing that I would like to highlight here is that we have another word, because when you are talking about this mentoring, I mean, terminology, there are some similar words like mentor, coach, advisor, consultant, and there are delicate differences. When we are talking about coach is someone that usually comes with very specific questions. But mentoring is something more likely to therapy sessions. And this is the mentee that is choosing, okay, today I need to talk about this topic. This is my, the problem that is, I cannot sleep at night. This is my life problem. So this is an important difference, because the coach is usually asking you questions, deepening the questions. So usually you are choosing a coach in a very specific domain of expertise. For example, you need to improve your presentation skills, you need to improve your sales skills, something like this. But about mentor, it is something like maybe you are choosing someone that is very experienced in an industry. Maybe you are choosing someone that has a great holistic view and can be, your, even general advisor, your industry coach, something like this. So it is really important to, when you have a mentor like this, in the first step, they can help you that, okay, what are the problems, and you can prioritize, the ones that you need to focus in the first step. And this is a very important role, that the mentor should help the mentee to understand which problem they shouldn't, lead, or they shouldn't make decision on behalf of the mentee, but they should open up a space so that they can think, and they can finally choose what to do and what are the main problems that right now they need to focus on. So it's really important to have someone that can help you have this space of getting just, the confidence that you are on the correct path. So overally, you are going through the roadmap that you have set it up with your investors, with your board members, and other stakeholders.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Now I would like to know from Adina.
Thank you. Now, this is very interesting listening to points of view, because this highlights to me some conversations that we've been having for 2 decades, I would say, in my field of activity, which actually cuts across being a business psychologist, being a business coach, and being a business mentor. And in our world, we have specific definitions and very strict boundaries around the definitions of this terminology. So we do not confuse the various domains of expertise and the methodology. And certainly therapy is actually not part of what we do in any of the mentoring, business psychology, or business coaching. Looking at the broader perception about how mentoring can be trained or learned, I would say that there are 2 components to mentoring. One is the technical component, which is the expertise of the person in a certain domain or industry or skill. And that is a given, because this is why they are mentors. This is why they have been assessed, or they feel that this is something that they can share with other people. But alongside that, there is training that needs to happen for mentors, which relates to what, as it's been mentioned, soft skills. So the soft skills mainly are in the realm of communication, and the understanding for mentors, unlike psychologists or therapists, is that this communication about the core subject, which is business or the specific skills, is a communication that is practical and knowledge-based. It is solution-focused. In other words, we are trying to find our way forward. It is also enabling incremental learning and experimenting on the part of the person who is actually playing with that knowledge. And it is supportive and developmental. Another important soft aspect is the relationship and striking the balance between leading and partnering. Because at times a mentor can be a lead simply because of the specific knowledge and because of the fact that they may circumvent risks or serious situations. On the other hand, the normal position is that of being a partner with a specific knowledge who walks alongside. And so it's being a leader, but at the same time an equal and a peer in the ecosystem where they operate. It's important for mentors to know the difference between what they are and what they are not. So a mentor in our definition is not a friend, is not a lead generator, is not a decision maker, not a judge, not a coach, not a psychologist. But what a mentor is supportive, is balanced, is inquisitive, is trustworthy, is transparent. So this relates to what has been mentioned as a system of shared values and beliefs, and this is extremely important. For the entrepreneurs, I would say that apart from specific business skills and technical knowledge, they need to develop, as people were mentioning before, develop themselves. And the key word here is awareness. And awareness goes threefold for entrepreneurs. It goes awareness of the self. And as it was mentioned, is do I understand my strengths, my weaknesses? Do I understand how I operate, how I communicate? What is my style? What are my preferences? But also understanding how the others are and how do they compare to me? Because this leads to understanding the value of collaboration. The truth is that we cannot be all things to all people. And famously, Richard Branson, who is incredibly successful and has been as a pretty much dropout of school, is a person who absolutely discloses incompetence in a number of very interesting domains. But what he says is, I do not need to know accounting. I do not need to know what profit and loss is. I need to have the best accountant in the world to do that job for me. And this was the recipe of his success. But not taking a specific position, I'm saying that understanding complementarity and the fact that we can be successful together more than we can achieve success by ourselves is a key element. And this goes hand in hand with what I would say the value of respect. It's a very important word. Maybe it's old-fashioned, but respecting the value of what another person gives into the equation and the trust. Now, to get the respect and trust, give what it's called psychological safety. And that is what we refer to as vulnerability and the ability to disclose and to say, I haven't got the clue, I've lost the plot, I have this vision, I know it's a good idea, I don't know how to get there, I forgot what I've learned, or I never learned what I should know, but I know that this is something that I want to implement and I need collaboration. So I think both for the mentor, apart from technical skills, there are personal soft skills of communication, relationship building, and complementarity. And again, from the entrepreneur, awareness, respect, trust, and the value of collaboration are key elements, because this is about an exchange, whether it's between two people or an ecosystem. It goes back to the, and I do like to always refer to philosophy and ethics in everything I say, because it's the top of the pyramid that informs the way in life. It's our values, our beliefs, our aspirations. We have a purpose, and that's philosophy. What am I doing on this planet? What change do I want to make? What is my aspiration? And the ethics hand in hand, which is the values. Do I help a person? And we practice that every single day. It's not the business of philosophers in academia. Every time you cross the road or you don't, you help someone to cross the road, or you make an ethical decision, which is what is the right thing to do in this situation. So this combination of the vision and purpose, which is a philosophical thing, with the values and beliefs and the value of collaboration between people and the exchange, that is the essence.
Thank you so much, Adina. Now we are very end of the session, but before ending the session, I would like to know any final remarks or suggestion that you want to actually put forward so that this main beneficial for these entrepreneurs, and especially for the women entrepreneurs, starting with Dr. Susan Ahmad.
Well, thank you very much for having me today. One final thought is really understanding conflicts of interest. And I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs looking for great mentorship sometimes are thinking a good combination, short-term and long-term, but I think one of the challenges a lot of us have is the people that we may feel closest to who will help us guide us down that road may have some conflicts of interest, may have been involved in something or are currently involved. And I would say that that's one place where we see a lot of disastrous things happen. Either the mentor doesn't disclose an existing investment they've made, or there may be challenges in goals, etc. So as a woman, as an entrepreneur myself, as I've found and had incredible mentoring relationships for way too many years, I think really understanding and vetting and creating that relationship first. So if you are not in a program, you should be surrounding yourself with people who consider themselves your mentors, that you check in with on a regular basis. Updates as to any introductions they've made, any things that are happening in the business, good or bad. Sometimes they should meet each other and meet with you in a group and get to know each other, because you're really creating that cocoon of support around yourself. And I urge you, it's wonderful if you have a startup and you're an entrepreneur, or you're in a career and you're looking to help grow the next big thing that you may join, or you're founding something yourself, whatever the case is. When you find someone who you feel is going to help you realize the best version of yourself, create that relationship. And you are accountable for keeping them engaged. It's not their job to hound you. If you're in a program, be very vocal about things that are working or not working in these mentoring relationships, especially if you've been paired. You're making that program better. And that hour of your time, or sometimes many hours of your time over the course of a program, that's an investment you're making in developing a mentor relationship and ultimately in yourself and in your business. If you're not seeing specific value from that, let the program know. The program needs to know if there's a mentor who has an awesome CV or resume, but is not listening, is not engaging, is not following up. And that discipline it goes across all of those relationships. So good luck to all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Susan. Yes, Julie Murat.
Thank you. We couldn't hear for a few seconds. Thank you, Beauty. So to close it, since at Bridge we're a social enterprise with the mission to democratize access to quality entrepreneurial support so that anyone anywhere can have access to that, my final word will be around accessibility. I think it's really the key. We have so many talented entrepreneurs in smaller towns, in rural areas where the ecosystem is not so developed, and they might not have access to all the resources you have in, like big cities and bigger ecosystems. So mentorship really needs to be truly democratic and accessible. And if we're not supporting diverse founders, then we're not creating diverse solutions. So the consequences are huge. And I'm thinking now sharing of Sumina Kaki, one of our entrepreneurs from Nepal. I hope she's watching and hearing that. She lives in a super rural area because her innovation is a biotech device to see if cattle is pregnant. And she was able to get mentorship through digital. And if it wasn't for that, she wouldn't have had access to that kind of resources. So now that COVID is here, it's taken way more into account by a lot of actors from the ecosystem, which really fills my heart with joy. And I hope it's going to stick for the years to come.
Thank you so much. Now, I'd like to know the few last words from Mariam Nazafi.
Personally, I believe each entrepreneurial dream matters, and my dream is to help as many entrepreneurs as I can aspire with their businesses, and that's why passionately I'm serving as WBF Business School Mentorship Department Head. And truly, I found it aligned with my mission on this planet. So really, I believe that, each entrepreneurship journey can create a significant, development in our planet and in our lives. So we are offering, different programs in in our department. One of them is that we are helping mentors to unlock their potentials and become better mentors. Also, we are helping entrepreneurs who need to receive these mentorship programs. We are matching them based on their need, based on their startup stage, based on the expertise that they need, and based on the problems they are struggling with. So just my last words is that I believe all of us need to invest in ourselves. And also I want to emphasize that women need to invest in themselves. And this investment is not only, just education and training, but also we need to know ourselves better. As Adina mentioned, Aristotle says that the abstract of philosophy, they asked him about the abstract of philosophy, and he said, know yourself. So I truly believe that all of us need to focus about our personal values. If we are a mother, an entrepreneur, I don't know, a manager, an expert, whatever we are, because in that way we can make the best decisions. Because in the dilemma you are facing, the only thing that helps you make the decision is your values. Personally, about many of the decisions that I have made, and right now I'm here in this panel talking with you, it's all related to my personal values. So I truly recommend, all our attendees to focus more on themselves, and it's not just, related to young people. All of us need to, just again and again rethink about ourselves, get connected to ourselves always, and because we are not, rigid, just creatures. We change every day, we change, and we need to update ourselves. So hope all of us can unlock our potentials, and every day we are getting closer to our better versions.
Thank you so much, Mariam. Any final remarks from Ms. Adinatari?
Thank you. And I'm looking at the clock, and I'll try to make it very swift. Fortunately, I'm going back in a beautiful round circle, talking about the impact, the societal impact, and the exceptional social accumulative value. And particularly about women, I would say that in relation to society, it is not necessarily a group that has historically over thousands of years been privileged and advantaged in any shape or form. And so women and other groups that have not had the benefit must absolutely be supported in order to fulfill their potential, because they represent half of the population of the planet. And it means that half of the potential of human beings with talent and intelligence is actually not realized as it should. So that's one point, which is mentoring. It's not only about one business making millions and being successful solving one problem. It's about the societal contribution for a group of people who is half of the planet, but not necessarily a half partner in the advantage and the opportunity. In addition, I would take up what Mariam's suggestion was, and I would say we all need to have mentors throughout our lives to inspire us at any age. And effectively, on the one hand, as a mentor, being a mentor is a job for life, I would say. And being an entrepreneur or a developing human being is also a job for life, because this is what we should be doing at any age, looking around for inspiration and for people who can lift us up and turn us into our best version to the last day of our, impact on this planet.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adina. We are really honored and privileged that all of you have joined our program and shared your important views and knowledge, and our audience would get the very good knowledge about mentorship program. If I quote our speakers about the mentorship that they have emphasized on the importance of mentorship. So what we need to do is that we need to have the collaboration among each other, and then if we have the matchmaking system in our mentorship program, then it will be more effective and entrepreneurs would get more fruitfulness among themselves. So that's all from our session. I would like to pay my thanks to all of you who have joined the program, and thanks to our panelists. Thank you.